Hey, good morning, good evening. Welcome everybody to another Aviatrix Tech Talk. Today we have another exciting session that I'm bringing to you. My name is Hamad. And I'm joined here by my colleague Shazad. Both of us are from the solution engineering team at Aviatrix, working with a lot of our customers with their public cloud designs. So a lot of our conversations are start and end with security. And what we find is the security conversation is all over the place. There's so many layers of security, and then there are things that are coming from the CSPs. Multiple CSPs have their own offerings, and oftentimes the customers are confused. What is that I actually have to do, right? What is like? Oftentimes people like to have at least some kind of checklist or a minimum things that they must do to secure their environments. And today the focus is where Shazad and I want to bring to you the 7 fundamentals for securing your cloud and network, because security should not be a blocker. It should be an accelerator for your applications in public cloud. So with that, I'm expecting most of you know about Aviatrix, but at a very high level, Aviatrix is focusing on secure cloud networking. When applications are going into the cloud, when you're building new applications environment in the cloud, networking can be either biggest blocker or the enabler. And Aviatrix is on the journey to make it an enabler for your applications by accelerating your cloud journey. From a security perspective, troubleshooting perspective, you need increased control, visibility, efficiency. Everything should be done at a faster pace, run it at pace faster than your application teams. Then reducing business risk, right? Everything should be automated, source controlled, visible, tracked. So, reducing the human effort that's required, increasing the security posture, and reducing the business risk. And do it in a way which is very easy and simple for your teams to adopt this cloud platforms. Engineers, network and security and operations people coming into the cloud, they have decades of on-prem experience. How do you translate that into cloud? That's another key aspect of Aviatrix platform. So with that 10,000 feet overview, let's turn to today's conversation. What are the 7 fundamentals to secure your cloud network? And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague and friend Shazad to take us from here.
All right, thanks, Ahmad. Yeah, so let's dive into the fundamentals, right? So the first thing I would like to stress upon is the importance of compliance and audit for your cloud networks. And to be honest, it's very difficult to achieve the compliance within the public cloud, or if you are operating in multiple clouds. And if you add the on-premise connectivity into the mix, the problem statement just multiplies a lot. So what we need to do, or what you need to do in order to design your cloud network to provide proper air gapping for your prod, dev, QA, and test, right? And the challenging part is that it has to be consistent across regions and across cloud. Okay, so you cannot use firewalls everywhere. That does not cut at all, right? So you need a mechanism to provide the network segmentation that is desired by these compliance requirement. It could be HIPAA, it could be PCI, or could be any type of compliance that you need. And in order to achieve that, Aviatrix provides you the network segmentation, right? So when you're building these networks, you can segment those networks based on a different line of businesses, based on prod, dev, or pre-prod and staging environment. So that's number one. That's something you need to be really worried about. And in order to provide that, we have the solution, like I said. Moving on, the second is the encryption. Okay, so this is something people don't take very seriously, unfortunately, and they think that the cloud constructs will provide them the encryption needed. But the problem is that all encryptions are not same, and all apps are not encrypted. There is still some legacy applications sitting out there. For example, a CT scan machine might be running a very old operating system, which might not provide you the encryption that you need. right? And then when you are about to use the native constructs, these native constructs are limited in terms of providing you the performance and throughput you need after you enable the encryption. Hamad, you want to say something about the encryption here?
Yeah, so I would say, I was talking to one of the architects from a financial recently, and he said something interesting. One of the things he said was, not everything from in the application space is encrypted. There's a lot of legacy applications that were built with the premise that they are going to live inside the data center. So when the perimeter is secure, you don't need to secure inside the core, right? So the applications were not built with security in mind. So that's one challenge. Now, when these applications are moving into the cloud, they are, how are you going to do security? Oftentimes when people talk about, hey, we can do encryption, we can use TLS, whatnot, they are mostly talking about web apps. Not every app is a web app as well. Now, even within the security, or encryption, not all encryption is same. There are multiple, levels of encryption, and over the years, like SSL, V3, TLS 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, like all these things are there. Now, how are you going to make sure that all of your applications are encrypted at the right level of encryption? That's another challenge, right? So, for example, this guy was saying that we have, 500 plus apps in our environment. Now, imagine how hard it is for us to go and validate across all these apps that they are encrypted at the right level. And a lot of these are off the shelf apps where we have to depend on a vendor. And then, anytime you enable something like this in the application, you have to do rigorous testing and check dependencies. So having the Aviatrix data plane encryption just gives them so much peace, because they know at least at the data plane layer, the traffic is encrypted, especially when it's about apps that are not exposed to the public internet, and they're talking just internally.
Right. All right. So that's the very important thing to remember. Now, if you move on a little bit, you will see that obviously when you're deploying these cloud networks, the traffic is coming from outside, traffic is going towards outside, towards internet, the egress, ingress, east, west, north, south, all type of traffic is happening. These flows are happening within your network. And with the rise of the ransomware and malware type attacks, it's extremely important that you have total control in terms of this traffic, these flows that are going out or coming into your network, right? Now, if you look at the native constructs like the NAT gateway or web application firewall, those are good things, but they're not enough, right? And when you talk about security, there is a notion of uh, defense in depth and the layered approach in terms of providing security, right? So there is no one size fit all. And again, the control piece is something you need to be really worried about, because when you don't have control over these flows, then obviously you are exposing your application, your business critical applications for those type of ransomware or malware type attacks, right? So what you can do, you can definitely leverage the third-party services to provide this layer of security. But not only that, with Aviatrix, you also have an additional benefit of having this security embedded inside the data plane, right? So very important concept. You need to take this Aviatrix platform into account to provide the proper visibility and security. But if you need to have additional third-party services like next generation firewall to control and filter that traffic or respect that traffic, you can easily leverage it with the Aviatrix platform. Now, we talked about the traffic and the flows happening inside and outside of your network, cloud network. But there is another important piece that you cannot forget, which is the user or the developers or the partners who would like to get connectivity back to your prod or pre-prod or a QA environment. And those users, they need to be securely connecting into your network. Okay, so with the Aviatrix platform, you have this SAML-based solution, which you can leverage to provide this layer of security for your end users or end clients that are connecting. And with the COVID, working from home, it's actually ever important to provide that level of connectivity with the proper security, with the zero trust policies and profile. And then when these users are connecting to your network, you need to provide them the best experience, the low latency experience. So the solution that Aviatrix provide is location and identity aware. So they can connect to the closest hop location or edge location. And then from there on, they can get access to their destination or their desired application with the policies and profile in place. Now, talk about the threat intelligence. We know that we cannot really get rid of it, right? This is a reality, unfortunate reality. These threats will be coming in from outside or sometime will be happening from within your network. So what you need, or we need a proper platform to provide this behavior analytics, or what exactly is happening in the network. If there is something which is kind of fishy, then the platform should be able to automatically detect that, right? There should not be any human intervention to see that, oh yeah, there is an anomaly happened somewhere, or there was a DDoS that was happening somewhere, or there was a spike, right? So that intelligence has to be part of the platform, right? So this is where Aviatrix is using the machine learning and smart techniques to detect those type of threats automatically before they actually happen. And it's happening in the real time because, like I said, this is part of the architecture. This is part of your data plane. So this is where network behavior analytics is another Aviatrix feature that our customers are using heavily to make sure that they are protected against those threats. Now, I talked about the threats are happening, alerts are also being sent to the proper places, but what about the remediation? So that is, again, I think the forte of Aviatrix platform is that it's not only detecting those threats on the intelligent basis, but also remediating those threats automatically on the fly, right? So these intruders are trying to access to your precious applications, but the Aviatrix platform is there to automatically block or quarantine those bad actors. And it's sending the alerts and notification. It could be a Slack alert, could be email, or could be any webhook alert that you get automatically when it happens. And then not only that, but we will automatically block those threats from penetrating within your network. So this is where Aviatrix Threat IQ and Threat Guard is working in conjunction to provide this level of security that you desired for your network. Now, this is the last and seventh fundamental pillar in our strategy, is to provide the visibility. So we talked a lot about the user, the flows and threat and whatnot. What you need a complete and total visibility into each and everything happening in your network, right? So this is what you need to provide the compliance and audit or meet your compliance and audit requirement for your enterprise. Okay, and it has to be noise free and should be done as a single pane of glass, because I see a lot of customers, they complain about, I'm getting a lot of noise, I'm getting a lot of alerts. Yeah, I have the visibility, but I don't really know where to see, right? So this is where we help our customers to cut that noise and give you the peace of mind that you need out of this architecture. Okay, so Aviatrix Copilot is our flagship product that is providing this deep operational visibility to reduce the mean time, to increase the security posture, to give you this compliance back into your control. Anything you want to add, Hamad?
Yeah, so on Copilot, I think this is really critical, because it's not just security. Of course, we're talking about Copilot here in the context of security, but I was talking to somebody last week or so, and there were two things, right? One thing is how quickly you are able. So one thing is like finding the problem, right? So let's say you are able to find the problem without Copilot in X hours, and with Copilot, let's say in few minutes. So one thing that you're doing is, of course, optimizing the time that is taking you. But the second thing you are doing is you're also reducing the risk. Let's say there was an exposure, right, that had happened. You had an application which was talking to a known bad actor. Now, with Aviatrix, you are able to identify it and then block it within a minute. Let's say without Aviatrix, I don't even know if there are any tools who would recognize it, but recognizing it and then remediating it would take, let's say, 2 hours as an example. So it's not just about reducing the time, but imagine the reduction of exposure. Now you are reducing exposure of your applications by, let's say, 118 minutes, right? So if the no bad actor was, is if there was a data exfoliation happening, or some other activity was happening, the amount of time that you reduce is the amount of risk you are also reducing. So which is extremely critical. So Copilot kind of marries the two things together, security, visibility, troubleshooting, but then reducing the risk and the exposure by exponent of the time.
Okay, so we discussed these 7 fundamentals. Now, this is a recap of what we discussed so far. So very important that you have a proper compliance boundaries. You have encryption pervasive everywhere, right? So this is very important. Then you need to have ingress and egress control. So we have Aviatrix egress FQDN filter feature. Then you can also leverage third-party services. Then user is very important at connecting to your prod or pre-prod environments. You need to provide proper security to those users. The threat intelligence has to be part of the data plane. And then not only the intelligence or detecting those threats, but automated remediation is also something you need to have as part of your cloud security model. And then the operational visibility, as we discussed. So if you have all those fundamental pillars covered, then you are basically providing a proper secure cloud security model that will not stop you moving on to your project or accelerating your cloud journey, but it will become like a forcing factor. Once you have all that, it becomes a forcing factor, and then you have your cloud network delivered in the timely fashion that your enterprise demand.